She is the future Queen of Spain. Why Princess Leonor's role matters now. For years, people thought they understood Princess Leonor's role. Future Queen. Carefully trained. Symbolic presence. A young royal waiting patiently for her time. But that understanding no longer holds. Because in Spain today, something has shifted. And Princess Leonor is no longer a figure of tomorrow. She has become a figure of now. Here's the familiar expectation. Heirs wait. They prepare quietly. They appear when summoned and disappear when protocol demands. They inherit relevance naturally, simply by aging into power. But that timetable no longer exists. And Leonor is proving it. Because this moment in Spain is not calm. It is cautious. It is questioning. It is emotionally complex. And that's exactly why her role suddenly matters more than ever. The turning point didn't come with a speech. It didn't come with a coronation announcement. It came through a series of small, human moments, noticed, shared, and felt by the public. Moments where Leonor didn't act like an untouchable heir. She acted like someone listening. And listening, right now, is power. Spain in 2025 is living in a state of generational negotiation. Young people are skeptical of institutions. Older generations are protective of stability. Everyone is tired of performance. The monarchy sits directly in the middle of that tension. And for years, the question hasn't been, will there be a Queen Leonor? It's been, will the monarchy still mean something when she arrives? That is the weight she carries into every room. And increasingly, people are noticing how she carries it. Leonor's presence has changed. Not dramatically, intentionally. She speaks less, but with more gravity. She moves with assurance, not urgency. She absorbs context before projecting authority. Those choices are not accidental. They are adaptive. Because relevance today is not inherited. It is earned moment by moment. And Leonor seems to understand that instinctively. To see why this matters, you have to look at what she represents beyond the crown. She is the first future Queen of Spain to come of age entirely in the digital era. Every expression archived. Every pause analyzed. Every misstep amplified. There is no myth-making buffer anymore. Which means authenticity becomes the only viable currency. And Leonor has chosen restraint over spectacle. That choice has quietly recalibrated how people see her. In public appearances, she does not dominate space. She anchors it. At state events, she doesn't rush attention toward herself. She reinforces continuity. And in family moments, she reveals something even more consequential. Emotional intelligence. Her bond with Infanta Sofia has become a key part of this perception. Not because it's sentimental, but because it reveals leadership style. Leonor does not lead alone. She leads relationally. She notices who stands beside her. She adjusts when others carry weight. That matters in a country deeply shaped by family structure and shared responsibility. It tells people something without saying it. That power, in her hands, may look collaborative rather than hierarchical. And that's a new image for Spanish monarchy. Leonor's military training further complicated public expectations. Some expected it to harden her, to make her more distant. Instead, it refined her. She emerged not more rigid, but more grounded. More attuned to discipline without losing empathy. That balance is being watched carefully. Because Spain doesn't lack symbols of authority. It lacks trust in institutions. And trust comes from perceived understanding. Leonor's appearances abroad reinforced this shift. When she entered spaces like Copenhagen Palace, she didn't project dominance. She projected awareness. Other royal families recognized it instantly. Not as charm, as depth. They saw someone already thinking beyond ceremony. Already considering longevity. And that recognition feeds back into how Spain sees her. Because international respect often validates domestic confidence. But the most telling change has occurred inside Spain itself. The conversation has softened. Criticism has shifted from accusation to curiosity. People ask what kind of queen she will be, not whether she should exist at all. That transition is subtle, but historic. It means the monarchy is no longer being defended by tradition alone. It is being renegotiated through Leonor. And that puts her in an unusual position. She is not waiting to inherit legitimacy. She is actively shaping it. That's why her role matters now. Not later. Now. Because Spain is deciding what kinds of figures it wants to believe in. And Leonor is being measured against that need. She does not promise perfection. She offers presence. She does not demand loyalty. She earns attention. And she does not rush the future toward herself. She allows it to emerge naturally. This approach aligns with something deeper happening across Europe. A quiet reframing of royalty from authority to accountability. From visibility to credibility. Leonor fits that shift instinctively. Perhaps because she has never known a world that rewarded distance. She has grown up in an age where people connect to leaders they feel understand them. Not those who tower above them. That adaptability may be her greatest asset. And yet, the pressure remains immense. Because every gesture is symbolic. Every silence is interpreted. Every family moment is politicized. Leonor cannot simply be herself. She must be deliberate. And still human. That is an impossible balance for most people. But so far, she is navigating it with restraint. And restraint builds confidence. One of the clearest signals of her growing importance is how the palace now positions her. She is no longer introduced as preparation. She is acknowledged as participation. She is present at moments that once belonged solely to the reigning generation. Not to replace them, but to reinforce them. That dynamic reassures older Spaniards and engages younger ones. It suggests transition without rupture. And that is exactly what a country under emotional strain needs. Princess Leonor's role matters now because Spain is not waiting anymore. It is watching, quietly, closely, not to see whether she is ready, but to see whether she understands. So far, she does. And that understanding may be the monarchy's strongest asset. Not because it guarantees permanence, but because it invites relevance. In a country seeking meaning over spectacle, Princess Leonor is emerging not as a promise, but as a presence. And that is why, long before she wears the crown, her role already matters. What makes this moment so critical is that Spain isn't just evaluating Princess Leonor. It's projecting onto her. People are watching her to understand what comes next, not only for the monarchy, but for the idea of national continuity itself. That pressure doesn't announce itself loudly. It shows up in the details. In how cameras linger a second longer. In how silence after her speeches feels heavier than applause. In how her smallest reactions travel farther than grand statements from others. And Leonor seems acutely aware of this. She doesn't rush reassurance. She allows trust to accumulate. That patience is unusual in a culture used to immediate validation. But it may be exactly what this moment demands. Spain in 2025 is emotionally fatigued. Citizens are wary of overpromising leaders and empty gestures. They respond instead to consistency. Leonor's repetition of calm, respectful engagement has begun to build that consistency. And it is changing tone. Conversations once dominated by doubt are now marked by careful optimism. Not belief without question, but openness without resistance. That is a meaningful shift. And it didn't come from messaging. It came from memory. People remember moments. Leonor comforting her sister. Leonor listening rather than asserting. Leonor stepping into royal spaces abroad without self-consciousness. Each moment added a layer. Each layer softened skepticism. This cumulative effect explains why her role feels active now. She is no longer judged in isolation. She is contextualized, placed within a broader narrative of stability without stagnation. For younger Spaniards especially, Leonor represents something rare. A public figure growing alongside them. Not distant in age, not frozen in protocol, but visibly learning in real time. That relatability matters more than symbolism ever could. And it reframes the relationship between institution and individual. The monarchy stops being an abstract idea. It becomes embodied. That embodiment brings vulnerability, which paradoxically builds trust. Because vulnerability signals honesty, Leonor doesn't hide the learning curve. She inhabits it. And people recognize that authenticity immediately. Still, nothing about her role is guaranteed. The future remains uncertain. Public patience can change. Expectations can harden. That's why timing matters. Leonor's presence now isn't about dominance. It's about preparedness. About showing that when transition comes, it won't feel abrupt. It will feel earned. Some analysts describe her emergence as quiet succession building. Not in title, but in legitimacy. That kind of succession takes time. And it can't be rushed. Leonor appears committed to that long arc. Which is why this moment is not premature. It is necessary, because Spain is already thinking ahead. And in that thinking, Princess Leonor is no longer a distant figure on a timeline. She is a reference point. A measure of whether tradition can evolve without collapsing. So far, she is answering that challenge not with certainty, but with steadiness. And steadiness, in uncertain times, is power. That is why her role matters now. Not because she is destined to rule, but because she is already showing how leadership might feel when it finally arrives.